Hello, 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 and welcome everybody. I hope you are doing well. Welcome to another session of the Summer School Lives. The summer school sessions are happening for the next week or so, 2 weeks. No, we're on the second week, aren't we? Or are we on the third week? Yes, we're on the third week. We did live ND and GND the first week, and then we did some bird AI and some settings last week. This week we are into Starry Sky, Autofocus and live composite, and then next week we have another week, and then that's it for summer school. But the idea behind these sort of small chunk sessions are to give you an introduction into the system. Maybe you're new to the system and you haven't heard of Starry Sky Autofocus, or maybe you haven't heard of live composite. So the idea, as I said, these are little bite-sized chunks enabling you to ask some questions. Hopefully I can answer them. Just to let you know, it's 30 degrees here and us Brits aren't used to this heat. So apologies if you can hear the fan. There is a fan going on. I've tried to move it away as far as possible so that it doesn't annoy you. If it does annoy you, please put it in the comments and I will go and switch it off. But you'll probably see me melt quite a lot in the next hour or so. Well, 45 minutes. So let's have a quick look at the chat. Let's see how all you're doing. Who have we got in? We've got James from Lubbock in Texas and Jim from Bern in Texas. They're probably a million miles apart, right? Even though it's Texas. So hello to everyone and thank you so much for joining us. We've got a sunny and hot Arizona. But George says it's foggy in San Francisco, which is really funny. We are struggling here. Us Brits, we don't know how to deal with anything over and above about 24, unless you're on holiday sitting by the pool with a very cold drink. So we're going to have a look at a couple of things. The first one I want to talk about is Starry Sky AF. Okay, now let's make sure I know what I'm doing, because sometimes we don't know what I'm doing. I have had a little play with the layout, so I should be better. Wow, you guys. Hello from Spain and Zurich and Wisconsin. And Jill says, hello, everybody. Perfect for last night auroras. I don't know if we had any here in the UK, but I think there were some pretty much right the way across the world, which was amazing. And it's just so amazing to see, isn't it? So let's go on to, the PowerPoint presentations are there as a reminder to make sure that I'm following a path, because I do tend to divert and go off, which is not good for anybody. So the idea is I jump into these little slides, which enables me, as I said, to keep going and to remember what I'm doing and make sure that I've not forgotten anything. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. If there's something I think, I'm not really sure, what I do is I'll go back into the session and then I will answer it in the next few days. The thing about Starry Sky Autofocus is, although for us in the UK, we're not coming into what I call sort of astrophotography, but we're not far off. Last night and the night before, the skies were so clear. And of course, we had the Perseid showers here. And the Perseid showers, just every few minutes you'll see them fall out of the sky, and they are pretty amazing to capture. And using Starry Sky AF and live composite those two combined can allow you to get things like the Perseid showers. So let's go through some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So, and as I said, please pop any questions in. Jill says, we did, Claire, we caught it in Cheshire, but it was seen all over the UK. Oh, if that was last night, it wasn't me. So let's talk about Starry Sky AF. Let's have a look. Why would you use Starry Sky AF? There's lots of reasons. It is absolutely amazing for astrophotography, but it can be used with anything that basically you want to focus to infinity. Okay, so again, you could use it on the moon, Milky Way, anything that basically where you have trouble focusing. So I have I can see a long distance, can't see very well close up, but I can't see super long distances. My eyesight's a bit all over the place. So when you do manual focusing and you use something like manual focus assist, that can work within its limits, within certain realms, but anything that's at infinity is always going to be a struggle to focus. So you would normally go to manual focus and either use, as I said, manual focus assist, where you've got the lights sort of shining and it sort of lights up the focus areas, or you go manual focus and you do it yourself. Now, that's all well and good, but I will tell you from personal experience, we went and shot the Milky Way, not last year, the year before, and I thought my eyesight was absolutely fine. The back of the screen looked fine. The viewfinder looked fine. But obviously, with it being so far away, even when you zoom in 100%, you do start losing that definition in the viewfinder. So you can't really tell 100% that you've got it in focus when you're doing it manually, and it's a little bit of trial and error. And I came back with some lovely shots of the Milky Way, and 90% of them were out of focus. Yeah, so I was a little bit cross. And when this first came out, I did think, oh, okay, Starry Sky AF, what's all that about? But I've got to tell you, it absolutely works. It takes a little bit of getting used to, because on different cameras, setting it or working it is two different things. So if you've got the E range, we'll talk about that. If you've got the O range, we'll talk about that. But it is an absolute game changer. Things like if you want to do time lapses and things like that, your camera will always be focused to a certain distance. It really is great. And if you've ever heard of Bazanoff filters are a filter that you put on the front of the camera that basically allows you to focus. Again, you don't need those. So it does cut down all those extras that you may pay for or that you might want to use. And to be honest with you, it's pretty good. So we're going to have a look at the settings, where it is in the camera, and then we're going to go back to the settings that are speed priority and accuracy priority. Okay, so now, as you remember, I have to make sure I know what I'm doing on screen because I always get it wrong. So we remove that one. Yay. And then we add this one. No, we don't want to add that one. Hang on a minute. Cool. There we go. Now, we've got to switch the camera on first. Otherwise, we won't get a screen. Right, there we go. There we go. Let's put that camera in front of that camera like that, so we can see exactly what we're doing. And I am going to just go to sort of normal manual exposure for now. Now, there's a couple of ways you can access our Starry Sky autofocus. Obviously, there's two options: to switch it on, but also to set it up. So what we're going to do is going to show you where it is in the super control panel on an OM1 Mark II. And if you scroll down, let's just make sure I'm not a manual focus. I'm not. You can use the front dial. Oh, there it is. Starry Sky AF. It is a little star in the box with the autofocus. And as I said, and that's where you'll find it on the OMs. Nice and easy. And that's where you'll find it on the EMs as well, because it's in the AF menu. So if you want it there, you can just turn on and activate it. Nice and simple, nice and easy. But if you need to, oh, you can see I was playing before. If you need to actually look at the parameters and the use and how to set up those parameters, you would need to go to the autofocus menu, which, as I said, is sort of three front dial, third section along, third parameter along, and then you can just scroll down. It is on page 1, and then use the D-pad or to scroll down into your Starry Sky autofocus settings. And then we go into the Starry Sky autofocus settings, and there you have two. You have speed priority, or you have accuracy priority. Now, there's a little bit of text there that says, why would you want speed over accuracy? But speed mode is the sort of default mode, and it prioritizes the focusing speed and completes the autofocus in a much, much quicker period of time. And this is all part of the image stabilization and the processor, making it all work together to enable you to basically hand hold astrophotography. Generally, astro is on a tripod. You wouldn't dare take it off a tripod. But with these two modes combined, and a short shutter speed, you can actually get really sharp images, astro images, handheld. And it is quite interesting because a lot of people, as I said, I don't think I've ever done astro without taking a tripod. And it will be one of the things that I try this year. If you like reading blogs and you want to deep dive a bit more into a photographer's and how they use it, I'll put a little link in the chat in a minute, and you can look at one of our ambassadors who breaks down Starry Sky about how he goes out, what sets up, a whole photographer's view. So it's quite important. We'll look at that in a minute. I'll put it in the chat. But let's go back to the accuracy option and speed option. As I said, the speed is all about prioritizing the autofocus and completing the autofocus operations really quickly. And it does that with the help of image stabilization. Now, accuracy priority, it uses a fine-tuned focus scan, and it's much more effective at shooting a specific style with a telephoto lens. So speed would be maybe the wide angle lens that you're going to use for sort of wider shots, or if you want something a bit more zoomed in, then again the accuracy priority. It always depends on time, but if you're going to use a tripod, then you're not running away. Time isn't of an essence, so accuracy priority will work that little bit better. And I think it's really worth having a play with that and having a look why's what's and why's. Let's have a look. Have we got any questions? Hello everybody. We've got no questions yet. Oh, that's interesting. We'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, so let's look at the next thing. So this is I've got to remember which one I'm doing here. Let's go back. Hey, there we go. So now, underneath the autofocus priority and speed options, and I have to do, normally I'm looking at the back of the camera, but I have to do it off the screen, which is a little bit disconcerting, so bear with me. Autofocus operations. So everybody knows with the OM1 and the OM Mark II on the back, you've got the AF on button. With the EM range, which would be with the OM5, the EM1 Mark III, you can use the AEL button. So it works in the same way. It's sort of in the same place. But when you want to actually physically activate the Starry Sky AF, you need to press the AF on button. Okay. Oh, we've got a question. Yay. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I'm going to just move my mouse over. Jump in a sec. Fastidious one. I love that. If you're on a tripod and using accuracy, how long do you need to hold the button to focus? You literally don't, because what happens is as soon as you press this button, whether that be the AEL on the E series cameras and the OM5 or the AF on the OM1, you will see a screen that appears Starry Sky AF running. So you know it's running. And if it doesn't say that, then you know it's definitely not running. Okay, so you need to make sure that that is on, and you'll see it quite clearly in the screen that the Starry Sky AF is running. Now, similarly to the continuous autofocus that you get, the camera is constantly looking for infinity. Okay, so although it's not moving in and out of focus, it's powering the whole time. So make sure you have a full battery when you go out, because it's not battery consuming, but it is taking a bit more than your standard shots. So I hope that answers your question, fastidious one. Okay, so let's go down the menu. Release priority. Okay, so this is fairly simple. The shutter cannot be released when the subject is out of focus. The shutter can be released when the subject is out of focus. Well, obviously, when you're using Starry Sky AF, you don't want the shutter to be released because you'll have a load if it's not in focus. So wait for that Starry Sky AF to start working and say it's running. Then it will take pictures. There's nothing worse than coming back with a load of out of focus shots. Okay. So I'm going to show you quickly. I've got to remember how to do this. Apologies. Oh, there you go. How do we get that one off stage? That one like that. Oh, there you go. This is shot out in Indonesia. And again, there's a little Perseoid there, if you can see. This is thanks to one of our end users, or one of our OM family. It was Mick Cousins shot this in Indonesia. Absolutely beautiful. And some really, really good stuff on that. So, okay. Let's have a look. We've got a few more questions and I need to make sure that I don't forget anyone. Let's take that off, put that back on. Got to remember, remove, turn it on, turn it off. Malcolm, very interesting. Let's have a look. We'll find out. Malcolm says, if I use back button focus with AF on button, will the Starry Sky AF? Yeah, because what's happening, Malcolm, is I'm just going to show you. Just so as we know what's going on. I'm going to add you to the stage. Got to remember how to do this. It's so many buttons. There you go. That's it. Right. So I'm going to just go back one, and I'm going to go back to the super control panel, because back button focus is exactly that, right? When you're in, sorry guys, when you're in single autofocus, continual autofocus, you're going to use back button focus. But of course, you're not in those focus modes. You're in Starry Sky AF. And the answer is, it swaps from being your back button focus to being your back button focus, because that is the only option in there, you see. So the answer is yes, Starry Skies. So interestingly, you, Malcolm and Steve have both asked the same question. So yes, can you understand? It's like a dual button. It's not actually changing its usage. It's just because you're changing from SAF, CAF to Starry Sky AF, it's still back button focus. So yeah, the answer is it absolutely does. I hope that helps. Lots of questions coming in, which is what we need. Courtney says, would you use Starry Sky autofocus for shooting the Northern Lights? Again, the northern, put my teeth back in. The Northern Lights are at infinity. So the answer is I would probably definitely use Starry Sky autofocus for shooting the Northern Lights. I suppose if you shot the Northern Lights before, and you're a master at it and you have your own plan and you know what you're doing, well, stick to that if your images are good. But definitely worth trying. And I think it's one of those features where if you have a back garden, or if you have somewhere where you don't even have to have a dark sky, if you've got somewhere where you can just plonk it on a tripod and have that little practice session before you head out to the trip of a lifetime, and practice there. Practice should always be done at home, okay? So keep that in mind. So Courtney, I would say yes. I would say yes to that. Kathy says, once focused using Starry Sky. Okay. What would indicate a need to use it again? That's interesting. So basically, if you moved your camera, if you moved your tripod, I suppose if the layout changed or if you moved, but if your tripod's staying in the same direction, you basically, whenever you go to take a shot, you would press the AF on. You just need to make sure that it's running on the screen and in the viewfinder, and that should give you the indication. All right. So let's have a look. I might have missed a couple of questions. Let me go through. We've got Madrid and Dartmoor and Orlando and Colorado, Newfoundland. Love it. I don't think I've missed any questions. Oh, Lynn. Hello, Lynn. Lynn says, hi, Lynn from Kent. I'm from Kent too, Lynn. Hello. I already have a question. When using Starry Sky, how do you get your foreground shot? Very interesting. Okay, so this is very interesting because obviously you will need, the camera is looking at infinity. Okay, so to be able to get your foreground in focus, you are going to need to change apertures and things like that. So rather than using sort of f22, something a bit brighter. So, obviously the smaller the aperture, the more that everything is in focus. So that's very interesting, Lynn. I suppose when you're doing infinity shots, and I'm sort of talking about this thing, you know, this shot that's on the screen quite specifically, if we look at this one here, there is no foreground. Well, you can see there's a bit of shrubbery in the foreground. Let me take that off along here. Don't know if you can see that. And that is pin sharp. Are you sort of saying that you would want something like the church or something, because that will be in focus, because it's scanning everything from the camera to infinity, and I haven't had anything that's been out of focus yet, so it's a good question, but as I said, I've not had any issues, so I will triple check that, though. That's one I will come back to just to make sure what I'm saying is right. I don't want to lead you up the garden path. So let me just triple check, and I'll get back to you on that one. Any more questions? Sorry, guys, I'm having to scroll lots of you in, which is wonderful. There we go. Lynn says, I've used it in Dungeness and never get the boats in focus. I assume the boats are literally right in. Yeah. Cliff's just answered a question. For foreground shortness, you'd use a wider lens. So you can see on something like this, this was shot with the 825. If you were picking like a 40 to 150 and you had, you know, sort of direct vision, then definitely. Lynn, what lens are you using? Let us know. Although Kathy says composite, yeah, that's sort of cheating. So we will, I think Cliff is right in that instance that a wider lens. Lynn, let us know what lens you're using so we can have a look. That's so dumb. It's not a dumb question, Edward. Edward says, I may have missed this as I've only just joined. How do you switch on the Starry Sky AF teeth? So, Edward, you literally just, if you've got an OM1 Mark II, you basically press the AF on button on the back. If you have an EM1 Mark III or any of the cameras that have the older model, then you have the AEL button on the back, which presses, and then the screen will say running, Starry Sky AF running. Okay. Oh, we jumped into a really good. So Lynn says the 7-14. Well, that should be wide enough. Interesting. That should be interesting. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, let's go back. Let's jump on the question. I will come back to you on that, Lynn. Let me just triple check. As I said, I use the 825, which is pretty wide. Not had any issues. We need to work out what aperture you're using and stuff like that. So stay with us a minute. Okay, another question. What lenses are compatible with Starry Sky AF? Most lenses I've used. I don't think I've had one that isn't not compatible. I've worked with them all. I use the 825, the 714, the 17, 1.2, the 12 to 40, the 9 to 18. That's what I've used for wide astro-y stuff. So not had a problem with any of them. But again, quite happy to get up. Quite happy to get up and find out. So again, I will put a little chart in there as we go and see if there's a chart lurking on the system somewhere, just to make sure that all are available. Okay, so James says, when using a 7-14, buildings, etc., are usually in focus. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Hey, true. So Edward Valletta. So yes, Edward Valletta, you can choose the Starry Sky AF from the Super Control panel just here. So you can use, oh, I've got to remember to take this one off again, haven't I? Here we go. You can select it there. So you can literally go from CAF, SAF to Starry Sky. And then within that, your parameters would be set up in the menu here. All right. 714 is a great lens. Kathy is a great lens. Super, super sharp. That's good. Courtney says that's a list. of great lens compatibility. We definitely need one of those. We'll find, I'm sure there is a lens compatibility chart in the depths somewhere. So let us find it. We will find it. So any more questions on Starry Sky F? Because it's actually quite a short thing. Beautiful skies tonight. It's supposed to be nice and clear and no cloud. There you go. Courtney says it's on OM Systems list. There you go. Thanks, Courtney. Thank you. So really interesting, as I said, the Starry Sky AF. Try it before, like with any of these features, try them before you go out. Don't head out to the to a really dark area where most of us do our photography and then start playing with settings and then thinking, oh, get some practice in your garden, know where those settings are, maybe even set them up on a custom function so that you can just go, osh, in C1 and then your Starry Sky AF and everything is all there ready for you. Okay, so keep that in mind. Edward, you've got it now. You got to switch off subject detection. Well done. Should have said that, shouldn't I? Yeah, you got to switch everything off. You know, don't have any of the subject detections on. Well done, guys. I love you. You're such a family, and I love the fact that you all help each other out. Okay. We'll keep an eye on the chat. If any other questions pop up, we'll come back to them at the end. But now I want to talk to you about I was going to say Starry Sky AF, but we've done that already, haven't we? Is any of you going out? Any of you out shooting tonight? You know, it's beautiful, beautiful stars. As I said, I sat on my decking last night, just staring into the stars, and I'm, you know, couldn't believe how beautiful a night it was. Okay, Paolo, very interesting. We're just going to quickly go back to that one. I know you guys are probably reading it, but really interesting that Paolo says, I second at James Fox. As long as you're using a wide lens, even at full aperture, you usually get a good focus on the foreground. Make sure that, just make sure that lens is focusing nice and sharp. And just make sure you've actually got Starry Sky AF activated. Because you might switch it on in the super control panel, but if you don't press one of those buttons, depending on which camera you have, it won't activate. Okay, so just having it on in the super control panel doesn't mean it's on. You have to press AF on the back, and then it should then it should work. Oh, I love you guys. It can do my job. List of compatible lenses. You guys are amazing. You are awesome. Jill says, definitely looking promising for auroras later tonight, as soon as it gets dark, if all the readings stay the same as they are. So worth going and setting your camera up tonight anyway. Good guys, good guys. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so let's talk about live composite. Now, as you know, OM System / Olympus were the very, 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 very first people to bring out mirrorless cameras. If you were part of the brigade that, you know, joined Olympus 12 years ago when we bought out an EM5, our first EM5 was the first mirrorless camera that was out there. And as I've said before, what happens when you have mirrorless cameras, you take that mirror box away from DSLRs. It means that you have a lot more electronic wizardry that you can start playing with. So you're not physically waiting for a mirror to close and open. That is physics. That's time and physics and mechanics. Take that box away, and then you have this whole heap of just electronics. Now, don't forget, we're shooting digital images, so we're shooting electronic images anyway, okay? So it is quite important that we honor this. And Olympus / OM System have brought some amazing, features to the forefront that other manufacturers are still trying to catch up on. One of them is live composite. Okay, now, low light photography is low light and long exposure photography is something that we absolutely love. And live composite, live time, and bulb. Now let's go through those settings, shall we? Now, if you have an EM1 Mark II, EM1 Mark I, or even an EM1X, which is what this camera is here, you will need to go to your manual setting on the top dial to get your shutter button and go and follow, keep turning it until it goes all the way through to 60 seconds and so on and so on and so on. And then you will come to live composite, live time and bulb. If you're on the later cameras, which would be an OM5, EM1 Mark III, and the OMs, the 1 and the 2, you will have a B button. B for bulb, okay? And so instead of it being buried in the menu, it's now on the top here, okay? I don't know why I'm doing that. Let's just do that. Don't do that, do that. I must get a new background soon. So on here is your B button. And when you switch to the B button, you get this menu. I'm going to switch the camera on. As you can see, it takes me a while. Hey, there we go. So there you can see live composite. If I use the back dial, it will take you to live time. I'm going to take my face off because my face is too big. A manual type, manual release, cable release, okay? Someone said we've lost audio. Can you tell me if you still hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Please say yes. And that takes a second for you to let me know. Yay, thanks, guys. I think it's because I took myself off the screen, didn't I? Sorry, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Dennis. Anyway, where are we? We can now. I think I took myself off of the stage and then the audio goes off. So I'm still learning, guys. I'm still learning. I might even get better at it at some point. So as I said, let's go back into the live composite menu. And so, as I said, in the top here, you have 3 modes, okay? You have bulb, you have live time, and you have live composite. Now, live comp is a 2-button process, okay? Let's have a look at this little thing that I made earlier so we can have a look and see how it works. Okay, lots of screens. You know, I might actually get better at this one point. Here we go. So we'll go back to the hints and tips in a minute. In fact, we'll go back. Oh, there's a slide missing. That's interesting. Let's go back to the minute. We'll go back to the camera. Going to do it the old-fashioned way. Let's remove that and put us back to the stage. There we go again. Live come back. I'm back to where we were. So live composite, for live composite to work, 2 presses of the shutter need to happen. The first press of the shutter determines your exposure. Okay. Now, let's talk about this. So we're outside. There's a beautiful church in the distance with some lovely light on it, but you want to photograph the Milky Way, but you still want that little bit of foreground. You still want that little bit of context, right? Rather than just pointing the camera to the sky, you want land to enable people to show how beautiful and how big and that sort of thing it is, you know, to give you that sort of presence. So what you do is you would have a little bit of practice with your base shot, okay? So when you go out, you'll say, okay, it's this aperture and it's going to be this exposure. And then you would press the shutter on the first shot. Now I'm going to press the shutter even though nothing's going to happen because I'm pointing at a black screen. And you can see it's gone off. I set it for a 1-second exposure and we'll go over that in a minute. Now it tells you that we're ready for composite shooting. And what that means is when I press the shutter a second time, which I'm going to do now, although it's going to stay black, the camera isn't going off and the camera will continue to run for 6 hours if you wanted it, or until the battery died. But what that's doing, even though you can't see it, what that's doing is if you are outside, Any additional light that came into the camera or onto the sensor will be recorded. Any light that was there on that first base shot will just stay as it is, all right? Because it's captured that initial light. It's not going to keep exposing that light, so it's going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. It knows what light was in the first shot and keeps that exposure as it is. Any extra light that's added will then be added to the image. And we're going to show you some images as we go on in a minute. But it's quite important to have a look. Now, I'm just going to stop the camera because that could be sat there for a while. And as you can see, I have a really cheap card in which took a while to load. When you're in the live composite menu, or in the live composite screen as we are there, if you just hit the menu button straight away, it takes you right into the composite settings, so you don't have to sort of find where it is. And this is where it gives you the option of changing basically how long your exposure will be. So it will go 1 second, then it will take another shot for 1 second, then it will take another shot for 1 second. And each one of those images is composited on to that very first base image. Sounds complicated. It really isn't. How I suggest you play with it is get yourself a little torch, take the first shot as a base shot and don't worry about it, and then press the second shot and go out with the torch at the front of the camera, and you'll start to see this torch that you're waving about, this light build up. Lots of you have seen, maybe you haven't seen the Hanu Hutumo video that's on our YouTube channel, which is our Finnish ambassador, making swans in the complete darkness. I mean, it's incredible the talent that he makes to make these swans. And basically there's loads of stuff on live composite. Yeah, we did some stuff on Christmas trees a couple of years ago, and you can either be as creative as you are or as not creative as I am. So here is where you choose how much time you require for each exposure. Okay, and so for instance, if I was to choose 1.6 seconds, then my first shot, can you see that? 1.6 seconds, and then every shot thereafter is 1.6 seconds, and basically it builds up and builds up. Now there is in the top left hand corner there of the screen, you can see a histogram, but of course you're not going to see anything because it's black. And that is a bit frustrating trying to demonstrate live composite during the day, because it does work better at night, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't get something during the day. Okay, let's have a quick look to see if we have any images. No, not images. Let's just remove that big face. There we go. I have to remember how to do all these buttons. Let's have a look. Have we got any questions on live composite? While the questions are coming in, let's have a look at some hints and tips. And they're fairly easy. And the one thing I will say is there will be a full hour's tutorial on David Smith's live composite tech Thursday. So although I've squeezed a couple of things in here for this session, David's doing a whole 1 hour. Oh, great. We've got some questions. Cass says, let me just stop. Will live comp work for the Aurora? It works amazingly for the Aurora. Okay. Because your green will build up and build up. And even if you only get a slight Aurora, what you can do is leave the camera shutter open on that second shutter and it will build up even more. So it's absolutely perfect for the Aurora. Again, I did say I'm going to pop someone's. Here we go. Let me show you an amazing blog, which I will show you in a minute, and then you can have a look. So if you haven't ever seen Peter Baumgarten, he's one of our US ambassadors. He has this incredible landscape where I'm always very, very, very jealous, very jealous. And if you head over to his blog, or even onto the Learn Center, I'm actually Control C. I'm actually going to put that in the text for you. Hang on a minute. Hang on, caller. I've got to know what I'm doing first. Here we go. StreamYard. There we go. I'm going to post that in there. Control V. Yes, he is a master at the outdoor Starry Sky and live composite. Yes, you can use them both together. I just seen that question. So yeah, really, really, really interesting and so much fun. Couple of things to use. Because the live composite is a 2-shot process, I would almost 100% definitely use a tripod. There's no way you can take a shot and then take another shot and not have anything move, especially if you're talking about distant stuff. Always use a cable release, but in my defense, I use the OI Share app on my phone because it's absolutely brilliant, and I love it. So if you don't have a cable release, please go and get yourself the app, download the app. And the app, again, gives you loads of hints and tips and takes you to blogs and all sorts of places. So definitely worth trying the app. Always use manual exposure. Again, this is about having control. So we do have a little question here from Glenn, which goes into that control. How do I know how long to set the shutter in live comp setup? Is it the same as base exposure, or are there different impacts from the time? So you can't change it once you've set. You can't do the base exposure and then come out and then change the exposure for the second shot, right? So again, which is why getting that base exposure is quite important. I would start with half a second because then you can go up or go down. But definitely have a look. What I would do is before you go into live comp, actually take a shot at half a second before the live comp thing starts and have a look at that image. Is that image okay for you? Are you happy with the colors? Are you happy with where you've put your focusing point? Unless you're using Starry Sky AF. And then use that, Glenn. So I would say start with half a second, have a look, and then you can maybe say, actually, that church that I want in the foreground needs a 2-second exposure, and then you can change it that way. Okay, so keep that in mind. Manual focus, not if you're using Starry Sky AF, of course. And things, as we said before, if you're going to do this incredible journey of astro, when you're there, when you're on site, you cannot see a thing unless you're getting your phones out and torches out. And if you're on a workshop, there will be times when you will be told to turn the lights off. It's very annoying being on a workshop with other people when everybody's lights are on at the different times. So practice in the garden or anywhere before the big shoot. Check your settings, assign it to a button, just to make sure that when you're there on site, you're not faffing around with settings and menus and things like that. Really interesting, and it says it on there. Be careful of your battery levels. Always keep the warm one in your pocket, ready for it to go. Remember when OM cameras can be open for 3-6 hours, that shutter is going to be open for all that time. So it does take a little bit of battery power. Okay. I just said that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was apps. There are loads of free apps out there. You've got the sort of live sky type one. If you want to go all in with your astro, then I suggest you buy something like Photo Pills, and then spend a year trying to learn how it works. I mean, it is intense, but it has everything: sun, moon, where the sun's falling, where it's rising. It's so full on. I had to get someone to sit down with me and just give me a 10-minute run through because I was like, where do I start? But absolutely brilliant. So definitely use that. Okay, Chuck says, do you use live bulb to set the reference shot? You can do that. You can use live bulb, live time, but you definitely need to make sure that you use that you do a base shot, because as I said, if you do 10 seconds, say you choose a beautiful dark foreground with a church, a lovely maybe Vic in Iceland's got this gorgeous church and it sits on a hill, and you really want that to be beautifully lit. As soon as you say a 10-second exposure, any lights are going to blow. So that's why I say just go knock it down a little bit. If you're not really sure what you're doing, start with a sort of half a second or 1 second, and that will give you You can have a look at that. Forget the sky, as I said. You can have a look at your base exposure and say, am I happy with the light that's falling on this base? Because that's going to stay as it is. That's it. That isn't changing. And so, you've got to do it from then on in. Hope that helps. So Kathy said the same thing. Once you establish your base exposure for your foreground, do you use then that shutter speed? Yes, my lovely, you absolutely do, because you can't come in and come out. So you've got to say my base exposure is 1 second, and is that good enough? And as I said, a little bit of trial and error. Get there early. Always make sure. Always get there early. Don't leave it too late. And as I said, working out that once you've worked out that base exposure, you can have 1 second, 2 seconds. Really doesn't matter. But we will talk a little bit more about why you'd have longer settings in a minute. Okay. Breathe. Do you mind if I take a drink? It's 30 degrees in here. Thank you. Martin de Graaf says, does it also work with remote control without cable? Yeah. As long as it's a remote control, it will work. Paolo says, if you use live composite in daylight with ND filters, live composite in daylight with NDS, then the shutter settings can play a great role in achieving different outputs. Absolutely, Paolo, you're so right. When I want to do, longer sort of using a 10 ND filter or something like that, you can get some incredible filters. You can get some incredible outcomes, because we talk about night skies and we talk about night photography and astro, but actually, as you say, you can use it in daylight with ND. So ND is going to cut the light out, and you can then stop and start, use longer exposures for blurry movement, for artistic impressions. Looking forward to seeing those. Now, again, if you're going to put any of these online, don't forget to tag us, hashtag OMSYSTEM.Cameras. We love to see your images all over the world. I always get very jealous of the places that you're at, and I think, why am I not there? Always looks amazing. Deirdre. Well, good, Deirdre. Thank you for the great information so far. I've had such great results. I'm confused sometimes about how long to set the comp time shot. Well, interestingly, my father-in-law went on a light painting on the beach here. We have quite a big beach in Folkestone, and we got some wire wool, and we lit the wire wool and we span it. And because somebody else was teaching the class that used a DSLR and didn't know about live composite, my stepfather's like, what's going on? And didn't get any shots. And I said to him, what are you listening to him for? Press the button once, press it twice, done. And we got some amazing images. So anyway, I always talk too much. Let's go. Let's have a look at some images, shall we? Tell me where you think you can use them, because actually live composite can be used for lots of things. This is in Germany, and absolutely perfect. Especially if you're in Cologne or any of those train stations where there's a bridge and you can watch the train comes in, or even motorway bridges or anything like that. Absolutely amazing to do some. We have the Channel Tunnel just up the road. We did some there. But again, this is just leaving the camera to do its own thing once you've pressed it once. And what are the base exposures are we looking for here? What we don't want to blow out is the Bosch sign on the bridge, or the Parkhouse sign on the bridge. Maybe the signs at the airport and the garages. We want them to stay fairly. We want them in focus and we want them sharp. And we don't want them to bleed. If you look over in the background, there's I think it's a McDonald's or something. That's got a neon light which has bled a little tiny bit. But if you look at the starburst in the background, we've used a fairly small aperture, so probably f20 on something like this, because there's so much light coming in at the camera at any one time. You actually need, or you should really use, smaller apertures for this type of photography. But you can see there, so much fun to do, and so interesting. Fireworks, that's the other way you can use. We've got bonfire night coming up in November. Tripod. One firework will go off. Normally you just take the shot of one and you wait, ooh, and then the other one goes a few minutes later. With the camera running, you can get 3 or 4 or 5, 6 fireworks in one shot, when you've had enough, and when the camera is when the image is lit, and when there's enough in the image, you can press the shutter and you can say, right, that's it, I'm done. So it's really interesting. Let me have a look at this one. Light trails. Now, this is really interesting. You want a minimum time of 30 minutes, right? Because if you want this, and you want to try and point at Polaris, which is the North Star, which is why you're getting this lovely circular motion. This has been pointed at Polaris. Leave the camera running. Sometimes I just come in the house and just let the camera run. And depending on how long you leave the camera for will depend on the depth of your star trails. Some star trails, how bright the sky is, of course. Some star trails are like, you can see in this image here, they look quite small, but because there's a lot of stars and you're pointing at the pole star, you get a great effect. But the longer you leave your camera out, the more prevalent those star trails will be. And again, just easy to do and so much fun. So yeah, definitely worth it. The other one, stormies. So again, try and have a look at things like lightning strikes. Again, the camera will pick it up. A lot of people use Pro Capture as well for lightning strikes. If you've ever tried that, very interesting. So you can also use this for sort of lightning strikes or anything like that, which again is really good fun. I've lost my mouse. Where's it gone? It's over here. There you go. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to do. Right, now, let me just make sure I've done everything, because I always get told off. Thanks, Diane. Diane's putting hashtag OMSYSTEM.Cameras. So yes, we love to see your images. We always like to see and make sure we know where you're going and we know what you're doing. And we get our Friday favorites. So sometimes you get, sometimes you get featured. And we always love to feature on Instagram. So, on Facebook and all the other platforms. I'm getting too old for it now. So definitely do that. The other thing I was going to ask you was that here? Oh, I can't remember where it is now. Any more questions? We have a couple of minutes. I think that was me for the images. Name some other things. Let's have an audience discussion here while we've got a few minutes. Oh, that's a nice one. So that's a mix of car trails and then running up and down with a light blade. Oxford Street, if you're in London, St. Paul's is the perfect place. I used to run a lot of workshops from night street photography workshops, and you get the St. Paul's in the background, St. Paul's Cathedral, obviously very famous, and then you get a red double-decker bus come past, and that was about a 1 second live composite image, but it was fabulous because you get those buses dragging. I should have put one of those in here. Anyway, so yes, have you got any more questions, or if anyone's got any suggestions that you want to share with everybody else, please say so, and it would be great to share those things. Does the image there? Does the composite photo get brighter with each shot, or does it add more detail and removes noise? It adds more detail and removes noise. So I hope that helps with the live composite. So yeah. Steve says, thanks for a great session. Not Starry Skies question, but what settings do I need on the OM1 Mark II when using the 100 to 400 lens? And do I turn lens to on or off? What are you photographing, Steve? It really does depend on what you're photographing. I'm assuming you're not tripod. So yeah, just need to let me know. Lynn, very interesting. Anything sort of 200 and below, I would say, on the ISOs. You don't want to ramp them up because you need to let less light in and you want more detail and less noise. So you don't want to go the other way. 200 and less. Okay. Courtney says, if you're new to Astro and want to take a trip to photograph the Northern Lights, what's the best way to practice? Assuming you don't see your lights. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, read lots of blogs. Make sure that you've gone with all your sets. Make sure if you read a blog and you get some settings, there are some YouTube videos out there from Peter as well. Set it up to a custom function so you don't have to reread it when you get to Iceland or get to somewhere where you've got those aurora pictures. And just keep that in mind. But make sure, practice. You can practice the northern lights on skies and other things without worrying so much. And all you got to remember is you're just got to imagine, right? If aurora comes across the sky and it's bright green and you press and you're using live composite, then that green is going to get brighter and brighter because that is shifting in the sky. It's not static. So the more it shifts, the more green or whatever, orange, whatever, the sky will build up to. So keep that in mind. What about using live composite meteor showers? Absolutely you can, Deirdre. Absolutely. The shutter will stay open for 6 hours. But actually what that means is you might get 5 or 6 in one go. You can do the old adage, which is stay in the garden, press the shutter open for 30 seconds. When it stops, press it again. When it stops, press it again. And then hope you've caught something. 30 seconds is about normal for a Perseoid within that sort of moment. I spent until 4:30 in the morning and got 2 images. Just got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. But absolutely. Steve, I'll get back to you on that one. Inank says, what about light pollution? Is it too much in our city? Can we still try it if it's not? Well, absolutely. If you have skies and you see stars, you can use it. So, Bart quickly says, point of attention is the time you lose with obliged noise reduction. I can't switch it off. Mark 1, Mark 3. EM1 Mark 3. You can switch off the noise reduction. You need to find it in the menu. You can definitely switch it off, which means so it means that if you had a 30-second exposure, the noise reduction will work for 30 seconds. So your camera basically is out of action for 60 seconds. If you turn off the noise reduction, it means you'll have to do a bit more post, but you can definitely turn off the noise reduction. So Chuck says, if you use live composite for meteor showers, you can get star trails. Very nice. We love that. Steve, I'll pop in and answer that because that's a chat. Depending on what you're using. I think we're done. So just one more. Courtney says, can you use light pollution filters with Starry Sky F? That's a very good question. Yeah. I mean, I would imagine they do work, but Paolo's put an answer in. There you go. There are some dedicated filters which may help, but in case of urban light pollution, of course, you cannot expect miracles, but they work a bit. Right, guys, that's me. I'm done. It's only my second live in a very long time. You'll be seeing more of me. We're coming up with lots of sessions. As I said, I was supposed to do a poll in the questions, but I don't know. I couldn't work out how to do it, so we won't worry about that. But I will work out how to do a poll next time, and we should be answering some fantastic questions. Keep yourself safe in this heat, if you're British, if you're from the UK, I should say. Love to everybody out there. As I said, lots of things coming up. Keep your eyes on the events page. As I said, David, I'm going to pop it in there because David has actually got a live composite coming next Thursday for his Tech Thursdays. We've got some new Zooms coming on as well. If you missed the one with Andy McCarthy about damsels and dragonflies, we're now going to composition. So there's lots of, Tesney's got one coming up, how to get better AF on your wildlife shots. So that'll be going up tomorrow. Loads of menu courses and all sorts. Claire and I are looking to do some events. So again, we're going to be going out and about for the deer up. So that'll be out and about soon. Apart from that, have a wonderful weekend, even though it's only Monday. Thanks for everybody for joining. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care, everyone. I've got to work out how to end the stream now. You can all just sit there and I shall play that, I think.